The wind swept across the barren plains of Epsilon 6, lifting dust into small, swirling clouds that glittered under the twin suns. The colony's structures, mostly simple domes and low metal buildings, creaked and groaned in protest against the planet's harsh weather. It was a young colony, barely 2 Earth years old, and already the humans living there had learned the unforgiving nature of frontier life. But nothing could have prepared them for the message that arrived that morning. Captain Alara Voss stood on the observation deck of the command center, her dark hair whipping across her face in the wind. She had seen a lot in her 32 years, from combat exercises on Mars to disaster relief missions in the outer colonies. But this was different. The monitor in front of her displayed a live feed of the approaching alien fleet, and it was like nothing she had ever imagined. Sleek black ships glided through the thin atmosphere of Epsilon 6, shimmering with an energy that seemed almost alive. The message from the Colony Council was clear. She had 24 hours to prepare the colony for a full-scale assault. The Council had spoken with careful urgency, their words heavy with fear and expectation. And now, as Alara watched the distant silhouettes of the alien vessels, the weight of that responsibility pressed down on her. "Captain," a voice called from behind her. It was Milo, the colony's youngest technician, barely 20, with a nervous energy that always seemed to crackle around him. "The drones we set up last week, they're ready for testing." I think they might help." Small, spherical drones lifted from the hangar in perfect synchrony, hovering above the ground like metal fireflies. "They're programmed to act as decoys," Milo explained. "They can simulate movement, light, and even heat signatures. The aliens' sensors should pick them up as human activity." Humans had a history of turning the simplest things into tools of survival. If nothing else, these drones could buy the colony some precious time. She turned back to the observation deck, scanning the horizon. "All right," she said, her voice rising over the wind. "Here's what we're going to do. Everyone will have a role. Every resource, every skill counts. Farmers, engineers, medics, kids, everyone. We have 24 hours. Let's make them count." They looked at Alara for guidance, and she gave them a nod that carried more weight than any speech could. "Listen," she said, her tone steady and commanding. "The aliens out there, whatever they are, they expect us to be predictable. Machines can calculate patterns, follow orders, and strike with precision. But humans can think, adapt, and act in ways they cannot anticipate. That's our advantage, and we will use it." One group worked on fortifying the perimeter, using whatever materials they could find: sandbags, metal scraps, and even old farming equipment. Another team focused on communications, making sure every sensor, every antenna, could relay real-time information across the colony. Milo's drones were programmed to move unpredictably, simulating patrols that didn't exist. Alara herself oversaw the planning from the observation deck, eyes scanning the incoming fleet. Her mind raced through scenarios, calculating potential strategies, anticipating moves the aliens might make. She was not just preparing for defense, she was preparing to make the enemy hesitate. By the second hour, the alien ships had moved closer, their dark forms casting long shadows over the plains. The colony's energy shields hummed faintly, barely able to cover the most vulnerable areas. The colonists worked tirelessly, their hands raw and minds focused. In this pressure cooker, human creativity began to shine. One engineer had rigged an old irrigation pump to spray reflective liquid across the fields, creating a mirror effect that confused sensors. Another had constructed a series of improvised barricades using mining carts and debris, giving the impression of a heavily fortified perimeter. Alara walked among them, offering guidance, encouragement, and sometimes quiet praise. She understood that leadership was not just orders, it was belief. If she believed in their potential, they would believe in themselves. Meanwhile, Milo ran simulations on the drones, adjusting their paths and behaviors. Each change was small, almost insignificant, but collectively they created an illusion of constant activity across the colony. The alien sensors would pick up these false signals, overestimating the colony's strength. As the third hour approached, the tension was almost unbearable. The wind had picked up, carrying dust and debris in sharp gusts, and the distant hum of the alien fleet grew louder, a low, almost imperceptible vibration that resonated through the ground. Alara stood on the observation deck, hands clasped behind her back, and watched as her plans slowly took shape in the field below. And then something unexpected happened. The alien ships began to shift position, not in attack, but in retreat. Slowly at first, then with growing urgency, they pulled back from the colony's perimeter, their movements precise, almost cautious. Alara's heart raced. This was not something she had anticipated. "What? Why?" Milo whispered, standing beside her, eyes wide. Alara did not answer immediately. She studied the fleet, noting the patterns, the angles, the timing. Then realization struck. The aliens were retreating because the humans had done something they could not predict. Every decoy, every improvised barricade, every unexpected action had disrupted their calculations. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was dangerous. Alara turned to her team through the comms system. "Keep working," she said. "We're not out of danger yet, but what we've done, it's working. They're learning the hard way that humans are not machines. They can't calculate creativity, courage, or improvisation." A group of farmers used spare irrigation pipes to create improvised motion sensors, detecting any unusual movement in the surrounding plains. By the 4th hour, the wind had calmed slightly, and the colony's defenses were stronger, more organized, and more resilient than anyone had expected in so short a time. The aliens had not attacked yet, but their retreat had given the humans something equally valuable: time. Time to prepare, to adapt, to strengthen not just their walls, but their confidence. Alara moved among the colonists, offering guidance and reassurance. "You see," she said, addressing a group of engineers, "it's not just the walls and the machines that keep us safe. It's our minds, our teamwork, our creativity. The aliens may be stronger, faster, more advanced, but they cannot outthink us, and that is our edge." The humans of this small outpost were learning something fundamental about themselves. When faced with impossible odds, they could rise, adapt, and turn fear into strategy. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the alien fleet had pulled back, unwilling or unable, to confront the unpredictable force that was humanity. Alara knew this was only the beginning. They had a day to prepare, and she would make every hour count. But for now, as night fell over the windswept plains, the colonists allowed themselves a small measure of hope. They had survived the first hours of what could have been the end. And in doing so, they had reminded the universe, and perhaps themselves, that humans were not to be underestimated. The first night on Epsilon 6 had been restless. The twin suns had set, leaving a deep purple sky that stretched over the barren plains. Inside the colony's main dome, lights flickered as the colonists worked tirelessly, their hands raw, minds alert. Captain Alara Voss moved among them, her steps quiet but purposeful, observing every detail. Every piece of equipment, every barricade, every drone in motion mattered now. In this hour, every small decision could mean survival or destruction. The aliens had retreated, yes, but their silence was not reassurance. It was an opportunity to prepare. Alara knew their caution meant they were studying humanity, trying to understand what they had just encountered. Humans were unpredictable. That unpredictability had forced the aliens to pause, to reconsider, and that pause was a weapon she intended to sharpen. By the 2nd hour after the retreat, Alara had already outlined new strategies. She called together the engineers, farmers, medics, and technicians in a large, improvised planning room. Maps of the surrounding terrain were spread across the table, and small models of the colony and drones littered the surface. "We cannot rely on walls and shields alone," she said, pointing to the models. "The aliens expect patterns. They calculate them. But humans do not move in predictable patterns. We adapt. We improvise. Every mistake they make because of us is an advantage. Every unexpected action is a weapon." Even the children, who had helped with minor tasks like running messages and powering small devices, watched carefully. Alara's words carried authority, yes, but they also carried belief, and humans respond to belief. Milo, the young technician, raised his hand. "Captain, if we can move the drones in unpredictable ways, simulate patrols, and add decoy energy signatures, we might be able to make them think the colony is stronger than it really is." Anything they do not expect. Farmers and medics joined in, repurposing irrigation systems, medical lasers, and even simple wind-powered generators to create unpredictable light and energy patterns. Meanwhile, Milo programmed the drones to move in irregular patterns, hopping between positions in ways no human or machine could predict. These drones became more than decoys. They were phantoms, shadows of a colony far larger and more dangerous than the reality. As the 3rd hour approached, the tension rose. Outside, the wind had shifted again, carrying dust and ice crystals across the plains. The distant hum of alien engines reached the ears of the colonists like a faint drumbeat. The aliens had not returned, but the sound was constant, a reminder that the threat was never far. Ilara walked through the workshops, stopping occasionally to inspect a device or offer guidance. "Remember," she said to a group of engineers installing motion sensors, "we do not want to just survive. We want to control the situation, make them doubt their calculations, make them hesitate. That hesitation is our victory before a shot is even fired. Increase the unpredictability, rotate positions, change the times, let every action confuse them further. Humans are not a machine, that is our edge, we will use it." One group placed reflective panels across the perimeter, angled so that alien sensors would register multiple heat signatures and energy bursts. Another squad planted sound emitters, generating artificial movement and footsteps to simulate patrols. The ingenuity was simple, yet effective. Humans were improvising with whatever materials were at hand, and the combination of chaos and strategy created a force far larger and more formidable than the alien fleet had expected. Even the children contributed. A pair of 12-year-old twins helped run communication relays between teams, adjusting signal strength to simulate multiple overlapping networks. Their laughter mingled with the sound of drills and machinery, a reminder that humanity's spirit persisted even under threat. As night deepened, the aliens seemed to watch from afar. Their ships hovered silently, almost invisible against the dark sky. The humans could not see their calculations or their fears, but Ilara knew from experience that hesitation in a superior force often meant uncertainty, and uncertainty was exploitable. By the 6th hour, the first real test came. Sensors detected small alien drones approaching the outer perimeter. They moved fast, silent, and precise, exactly what the colonists had feared. But the humans were ready. Milo's decoy drones had already been deployed, moving in irregular patterns across the plains. Reflective panels created false heat signatures, and sound emitters simulated patrols the aliens could not see. The alien drones hesitated, scanning the perimeter. Their calculations must have been confused by the overlapping signals. They hovered, paused, and then retreated, leaving the colonists' defenses untouched. A cheer rose from the humans, not loud but firm. The first small victory had been won. Ilara allowed herself a brief smile but quickly returned to her commanding mindset. "Good," she said. "This proves that they can be delayed. It proves they are not invincible, but we cannot be complacent. They will try again, and next time they may come with more force. We must be ready." One engineer noticed a slight interference in the energy shield, and using only spare parts, created a makeshift amplifier that strengthened the shield's coverage over the most exposed sections. Another group used old solar mirrors to reflect light in ways that temporarily blinded the alien sensors, forcing them to miscalculate distances and angles. Ilara continued to observe from the command deck, notebook in hand. She noted every action, every response from the drones and sensors, adjusting her strategy accordingly. She saw not only the actions of her own people, but the responses of the aliens. Patterns emerged, and where patterns existed, humans could exploit them. By the 9th hour, exhaustion was visible. Yet determination burned in the eyes of the colonists. Every improvised barricade, every drone, every decoy added to the illusion of a colony far stronger and more capable than reality allowed. The humans were not just defending, they were teaching the aliens to doubt themselves. Ilara called a brief meeting with her key team leaders. "Listen carefully," she said. "They've seen what we can do. Every small action has an effect. Every unpredictable move confuses them. We are proving without firing a single shot that humans are dangerous because humans are unpredictable. We will use that. Keep experimenting, keep improvising, push them to hesitate again. It can interfere with their drones, sensors temporarily, just enough to buy us seconds." The alien fleet remained distant, hovering just beyond detection range. For a moment, the colonists paused, stretching tired limbs, drinking water, and sharing brief smiles. Even in the darkness, humans found ways to support one another. It was not strength alone that made them formidable. It was resilience, collaboration, and creativity. Ilara walked through the dome, her eyes meeting those of every colonist she passed. "Do not forget this," she said softly. "We are more than our weapons, more than our shields. We are humans, and humans are dangerous when they refuse to be predictable. That is our edge, and that is what they fear." The colony had transformed from a collection of fragile structures into a network of living defenses. Drones moved like phantoms, barricades shifted unpredictably, and every colonist, from engineer to child, had played a part. The alien fleet had yet to attack, but every human action had left its mark. They had already won small victories, unseen but significant. Alara looked out over the plains one last time before resting. The wind had calmed again, leaving a silence that was both eerie and promising. Somewhere in the darkness, the aliens observed, uncertain, hesitant, and perhaps even fearful. Humans had 24 hours to prepare. And by now, the humans of Epsilon 6 had already proven that they could do more in half a day than the aliens had expected. They had turned fear into strategy, uncertainty into opportunity, and raw determination into a weapon. The real battle had not yet begun, but the first hour had already been won in a way the aliens could not calculate. And as Alara finally allowed herself a brief moment to rest, she knew one thing clearly. Humanity had begun to remind the universe that it was not a species to be underestimated. The third hour on Epsilon 6 began with a strange tension in the air, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. The twin suns, low on the horizon, cast long shadows across the barren plains, making the colony's structures look taller, stronger, and more imposing than they really were. Captain Alara Voss stood on the observation deck of the command center, her eyes fixed on the distant silhouettes of the alien fleet. They had hovered silently for hours, watching, calculating, and waiting. But now something was different. The hum of alien engines, a low and almost menacing vibration, had shifted. The ships were moving with unusual caution. Alara's sharp instincts told her that the aliens were confused. Their patterns were inconsistent, their movements hesitant. Every indicator suggested that the humans had already affected their calculations. Captain Milo called from the console, voice tight with excitement. "They are hesitating. Their formations are breaking. It looks like they're pulling back." Small swarms of drones separated from the main ships, hovering above the outer planes, then retreating, regrouping, and retreating again. The colony's sensors picked up bursts of energy, but none were directed at the humans. The aliens were assessing, uncertain, cautious. Humans, who had only hours to prepare, had forced hesitation in an enemy that had been considered superior in every way. "They're testing us," Alara said firmly. "They don't know what to expect. Every action we've taken, drones, barricades, decoys, they're reconsidering their calculations. They've underestimated us." Engineers paused in their adjustments to barricades, technicians watched the drones' erratic patterns with pride, and even the younger colonists stopped for a moment to glance at the horizon. The aliens, who had been the embodiment of fear, were retreating, and humans had caused it. Alara moved quickly, gathering her key teams in the command center. "Listen up," she said, her voice carrying over the hum of machinery and the low wind outside. "They're pulling back because they cannot predict us. They see movement where they expected stillness, they see energy where they expected silence, and they cannot calculate our creativity. This is exactly what we need. Keep them confused, push them further. Every unexpected action we take now increases their uncertainty. All teams follow the plan. Improvisation is our weapon. Creativity is our armor. Let's show them why humans cannot be predicted." Engineers adjusted barricades and reflective panels, creating illusions of walls, trenches, and defensive outposts far larger than the reality. Farmers and medics operated small energy emitters, sending pulses of heat and light across the plains, creating phantom patrols. Even small mistakes were turned into advantages. A dropped sensor, meant to measure drone activity, created a false energy spike that the aliens interpreted as a human strike team moving into position. A misaligned reflective panel scattered sunlight at an unusual angle, fooling the enemy sensors into detecting more structures than actually existed. Every minor error was transformed into deception. As the hour progressed, the alien fleet began to react. Ships that had hovered in formation broke apart, small squads moving back and forth, scanning, recalculating, and occasionally firing probes that revealed nothing but illusions. The humans watched in silent awe as their small colony, armed with little more than improvisation, creativity, and courage, had forced the aliens to reconsider a direct assault. Alara moved among the colonists, her presence calm but commanding. "Do not relax," she reminded them. "This is not victory yet, but remember, every moment of confusion we cause is a victory in itself." They see humans as predictable, controllable, and weak. They are learning, the hard way, that we are none of those things. Captain, they're pulling back completely. They're leaving the perimeter. They cannot calculate human unpredictability, but they can strike if we lower our guard. Children operated messenger drones, delivering false signals and instructions to phantom units that did not exist. The colony had become a living illusion, every citizen contributing to a single purpose: survival through unpredictability. By the fifth hour, the aliens had retreated enough that their fleet was almost entirely outside detection range. Small drones still hovered, scanning, but their formations were disorganized. It was clear that the humans' creativity had forced the alien commanders to pause, hesitant to commit to an attack against a foe they could not calculate. Alara allowed herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. Humanity had done something extraordinary, not with superior weapons, not with sheer numbers, but with ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. Humans were unpredictable. Humans adapted, and that had made them dangerous even to a fleet that had once seemed invincible. But the captain did not underestimate the situation. She knew that the aliens were not gone. They were observing, learning, and recalculating. She turned to her teams in the command center. "We've bought time," she said. "Time is our greatest ally. Every action we take now shapes the battlefield. They may come back stronger, but we will be ready. Improvisation, creativity, unpredictability, these are our weapons. Use them wisely. Every false move is a message. Humans are not predictable. Humans are dangerous. Humans will fight." Farmers created a series of smoke generators, giving the illusion of explosions and fire in areas that were empty. Medics joined in, running small lasers across reflective surfaces to create light bursts that suggested movement of large human squads. Every detail mattered. Humans were turning their weaknesses into strengths. They lacked advanced weapons, large numbers, and heavy armor, but they had imagination, adaptability, and courage. The alien fleet had not accounted for those traits, and now they were paying the price. Alara walked through the command center, observing the teams at work. Each colonist was focused, precise, and determined. Engineers moved quickly, improvising and testing devices. Technicians monitored drones, adjusting patterns and creating chaos in the aliens' calculations. Farmers and medics moved with quiet efficiency, their skills repurposed for defense. Even the youngest colonists played their part, running messages and relays, learning that their contributions mattered in ways they could not yet fully understand. By the seventh hour, the aliens' hesitation had turned into retreat. Their ships moved further back, leaving the immediate perimeter free of threat. The humans could breathe, but only slightly. Alara knew that the battle had not ended. The aliens were observing, learning, and calculating. The difference now was that humans had demonstrated something fundamental. They could not be predicted, they could not be calculated, and they could not be controlled. Milo approached her once more, a small grin on his face. "Captain, we did it. They've retreated. We've bought time. And more than that, we've shown them humans are not to be underestimated. That is the real strength of humanity." Every improvised device, every creative maneuver, every act of courage had contributed to this success. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the alien fleet hovered, silent and uncertain, forced to reconsider an enemy they had assumed would be weak, predictable, and controllable. Humans had done what no one expected. They had turned fear into strategy, desperation into invention, and uncertainty into advantage. Alara looked out across the plains, feeling the weight of both responsibility and pride. They had survived the first 3 hours. They had turned the tide of expectation, and they were just getting started. The humans of Epsilon 6 had learned something fundamental. In unpredictability, creativity, and courage, they had a power the universe could not calculate, and it was already working to their advantage. The dawn on Epsilon 6 was cold and quiet, the wind low, almost respectful after the chaos of the past hours. The alien fleet had retreated beyond the planet's horizon, but Captain Alara Voss knew better than to trust silence. 3 hours had passed, and in those 3 hours, humans had done something extraordinary. They had forced hesitation in an enemy far more advanced, far more powerful. But this was not victory. Not yet. Victory required understanding. Alara walked through the colony, her boots crunching on the dust-strewn floor of the main dome. Colonists were already active, repairing devices, adjusting barricades, and running diagnostics. Every hand was busy, every mind alert. Milo was at his console, analyzing alien signals with a focus that made him look older than his 20 years. He glanced up as she approached. "Captain," he said quietly, "I've been studying the drones and the retreat patterns. There's something strange about their coordination. They seem efficient, precise, but rigid. Every action they take is calculated almost perfectly. But they have trouble when things deviate from expected patterns. Humans were unpredictable. That's why they pulled back so quickly. We need to see what confuses them, and then we need to be ready when they return." When the drones encounter multiple signals, multiple movements that do not follow a linear path, their calculations fail. They hesitate. They retreat. We need to turn this into a strategy. Every move we make must maximize unpredictability, forcing them to overthink, overreact, and hesitate again. "Captain, if we can analyze their flight paths and predict their response times, we could deploy decoys and traps at the exact moments that cause maximum confusion. We could make them think the colony is far stronger than it really is. Begin designing patterns that change constantly. Make the drones move differently each hour. Shift barricades, shift patrols, shift everything they might try to predict. Let them learn the hard way that humans cannot be predicted. We can force their sensors to fail by creating false reflections, shifting shadows, and sudden energy bursts in unexpected areas. We must make them doubt their calculations at every turn." Children ran drones between these positions, creating phantom patrols that the aliens' sensors would detect as real forces. Alara and Milo monitored the developments from the observation deck, their eyes following patterns on the screens. Every movement, every signal was designed to maximize confusion. The aliens had never faced humans like this before, not in their calculations, not in their simulations. Humans were chaotic, inventive, and persistent. By the second hour after the retreat, the humans had begun collecting alien drone fragments from the outer planes. Small squads moved carefully, retrieving technology without triggering alarms. Alara knew that understanding the enemy's equipment was essential. Every piece of alien technology offered insight into their strategy, their weaknesses, and their limitations. The fragments were small, black, and smooth, humming faintly with energy that the colonists could barely measure. Engineers and technicians examined them, noting that while the drones were highly efficient, they operated on strict algorithms. Any deviation from expected input caused errors. Humans could exploit this. They could become the unpredictable variable the aliens could never calculate. As the fourth hour approached, Alara gathered her key teams again. "Listen carefully," she said. "The aliens are not gone. They are observing, learning, and calculating, but they cannot anticipate creativity. They cannot anticipate courage. We will use their rigidity against them. Every move we make, every device we deploy, every action we take will be designed to force hesitation, confusion, and retreat. Humans do not fight like machines. That is our strength." Everything became part of a grand, living strategy that relied on imagination, collaboration, and courage rather than brute force. Milo approached Alara with a small handheld device. "Captain, I've tested the signal disruptor again. If we combine it with the drone's erratic patterns, we can scramble alien sensors for longer periods. They won't be able to tell real from fake. This could buy us even more time if they return. Remember, our power lies not in weapons, not in numbers, but in adaptability, ingenuity, and courage." Farmers rigged wind-powered noise generators to simulate marching or vehicle activity. Medics used lasers and light panels to create flashes and bursts that suggested large-scale activity in areas that were empty. Even the youngest colonists contributed in meaningful ways. They ran drones, monitored signals, and helped move small devices into place. Each person, no matter age or experience, became part of a collective intelligence that the aliens could not predict. Every action had purpose, every mistake became advantage, and every individual's creativity reinforced the strength of the colony. By the 8th hour, Alara began sending small scouting teams to the outer plains, analyzing alien drone fragments and mapping the terrain. These scouts reported back with information that allowed engineers to improve barricades, adjust drone paths, and refine traps. Humans were learning faster than the aliens could adapt, and every lesson turned into strategy. Alara walked among the colonists, observing their work. She saw not only the devices and barricades, but the determination in their eyes, the pride in their efforts. Humans were doing what they did best. They were thinking, improvising, and refusing to be predictable. That was the true power of humanity, and it was impossible for the alien fleet to calculate. As the ninth hour approached, a small alarm triggered on Milo's console. "Captain," he said, voice tense, "small drones approaching. They're checking the perimeter again." Sensors show they're cautious, scanning, but no attacks yet. Our decoys should confuse them. Drones moved unpredictably, reflective panels created phantom troop movements, and noise generators simulated large-scale patrols. The aliens hesitated at every turn, retreating slightly whenever the humans' ingenuity forced confusion. "It's working," Alara said quietly. "They cannot predict us." Every hesitation is a victory. Alara gathered her leaders for a final briefing of the day. "We have learned a critical lesson," she said. "The aliens are powerful, but they are rigid. They rely on calculations and predictable outcomes. Humans are unpredictable. Humans adapt. Humans are dangerous because they refuse to be predictable. That is the lesson we will carry forward. We must continue to experiment, improvise, and refine. When the aliens return, we will be ready, not because we are stronger, but because we are human. We are not just surviving. We are teaching the universe that humans cannot be calculated, cannot be controlled, and cannot be underestimated." They had not only defended their colony, but had also learned to exploit the enemy's rigidity, turning fear into strategy, hesitation into advantage, and uncertainty into power. Alara walked to the observation deck one last time, looking at the twin suns setting on the horizon. The colony had survived the day's first crisis, but more challenges lay ahead. Yet in those hours of preparation and improvisation, humans had discovered something profound. Their creativity, adaptability, and courage were weapons the universe could not calculate. And somewhere in the darkness, the alien fleet knew it too. Humans were dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. And humans would fight. The dawn of the second day on Epsilon 6 was pale and sharp, the twin suns rising slowly over the barren plains. Captain Alara Voss stood on the observation deck of the command center, her eyes scanning the horizon. The alien fleet had been watching from afar for nearly 12 hours, testing, probing, and recalculating. But now, unlike yesterday, their movements suggested that a full assault was imminent. Alara's mind was clear, focused, and alert. The humans had spent the past day learning, adapting, and improvising. Barricades had been reinforced, drones programmed with new unpredictable patterns, reflective panels shifted to create false signatures, and signal disruptors were strategically placed across the plains. Every colonist had a role, every device a purpose, and every action a potential advantage. Humanity had learned the alien fleet's weaknesses, and they were ready to exploit them. "Captain," Milo said, voice tight with anticipation, "they're moving in. Small fleets first, then larger ships behind. Looks like a coordinated approach. Sensors show they expect a conventional defense, but ours is different." Engineers checked barricades one last time, technicians adjusted drone paths, and farmers repositioned reflective panels and energy emitters. Children ran small drones, weaving through the colony in unpredictable patterns to create the illusion of activity far beyond the colony's actual capacity. Even the youngest members understood the stakes. Humans had survived the first day through ingenuity, and today would be no different. The first alien drones entered the outer perimeter. They moved silently, fast, and precise, scanning the fields for energy signatures or human activity. Milo activated the first decoy sequence. Drones darted in irregular patterns, energy pulses flashed across reflective panels, and noise generators created phantom footsteps. The alien drones hesitated. Alara's voice echoed over the comm system. "Keep them off balance. Let them doubt their calculations. Every hesitation counts." The alien commanders could see activity everywhere, but no real targets. The humans were ghosts, shadows, and decoys, and every action was calculated to create confusion. In the second hour, larger ships approached, hovering over the plains. Their sensors scanned the terrain, probing for human positions. Alara had anticipated this. She activated the mobile signal disruptors in combination with drones that moved in erratic, unpredictable paths. The larger ships paused, their calculations failing to separate false signals from real threats. For the first time, hesitation crept into the alien fleet on a larger scale. Below, colonists worked tirelessly. Engineers rotated barricades to new positions, making it seem as if the colony were larger and more fortified. Farmers created dust clouds with irrigation pumps, simulating troop movements in empty fields. Medics adjusted light and energy panels, creating bursts of activity in areas devoid of humans. Every deception, every unpredictable maneuver forced the aliens to doubt their strategies. Alara observed the results on the monitors. The alien fleet was reacting slowly, overcompensating for each false signal. The humans' improvisation had become their greatest weapon. Milo whispered almost in disbelief, "Captain, we're doing it. They're hesitating. They can't predict us." Keep improvising, keep adapting, keep making them doubt every calculation. Every moment of doubt in the alien fleet was a victory. Alara directed her teams to create a new layer of deception. Engineers deployed lightweight barricades across unexpected areas, signaling false strongholds. Drones projected energy signatures that suggested large weapons emplacements. Children operated fast drones to simulate human patrols moving across the plains in impossible directions. Even small, improvised noises amplified with wind-driven devices contributed to the illusion. The alien commanders, unable to distinguish reality from deception, began to pull back. They had encountered humans yesterday and retreated. Today, humans had refined every tactic, perfected every improvisation, and amplified unpredictability on every level. The aliens hesitated again, retreating further than before. Alara walked among the colonists, observing their work with a mixture of pride and determination. "Humans are unpredictable," she said quietly, more to herself than to anyone else. "We adapt, we improvise, we survive because we refuse to be calculated. They don't want to risk a direct strike. They've learned." Their formations broke apart, some ships hovering in confusion, others slowly moving beyond detection range. The humans, through relentless ingenuity, improvisation, and courage, had forced hesitation, retreat, and doubt in a superior force. Alara activated the final sequence. Mobile drones moved in unpredictable bursts, signal disruptors pulsed erratically, and reflective panels created flashes of light across the plains. Noise generators mimicked marching troops and vehicle movements. Even small teams on the ground created dust clouds and energy bursts in unexpected areas. The humans' unpredictability had reached its peak. The aliens, unable to commit to an attack, began a full retreat. Ships disappeared beyond the horizon, drones scattered, and the skies over Epsilon 6 cleared for the first time in 2 days. The colony, battered but intact, had survived without firing a single major weapon. Human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage had won the day. Below, the colonists erupted in cheers. Engineers hugged, farmers laughed, children shouted in delight. Milo ran to Alara, his face shining with excitement. "Captain, we did it! They retreated! They're gone!" Every device, every decoy, every improvised action mattered. Humans cannot be calculated. Humans cannot be controlled. Humans fight in ways the universe cannot predict, and that is our strength. Other fleets might come, but the humans had learned something fundamental. They could survive against forces far stronger than themselves if they used ingenuity, adaptability, and teamwork. Milo approached her again, carrying a small alien drone fragment they had recovered. "Captain, I've studied these fragments. They're advanced, yes, but they are rigid, dependent on calculations and patterns. Humans are unpredictable. That is why we survived. That is why we will survive again if we must. That is a power no calculation can overcome." They had turned a desperate situation into a victory through sheer ingenuity and courage. Alara walked outside onto the plains, feeling the wind on her face. The colony stood strong, shadows stretching across the barren land. The twin suns reflected off reflective panels, drones hovering in erratic patterns, and every sound device creating the illusion of a larger, more formidable human force. The aliens had retreated, but the message had been sent. Humans are unpredictable, inventive, and dangerous. She turned back to the command center where Milo and the colonists were busy analyzing alien signals and debris. "Remember this moment," she said. "Humans survived. Humans adapted. Humans prevailed not because of technology or numbers, but because of imagination, courage, and determination. That is our greatest strength." By nightfall, the colony had settled into a rhythm of vigilance and preparation. Drones continued to move in unpredictable patterns, reflective panels shimmered in the light of the twin suns, and noise generators created a subtle hum across the plains. Every colonist knew their role, understood the importance of unpredictability, and felt the pride of contributing to a larger human victory. Ilara finally allowed herself a moment of rest, standing on the observation deck and looking at the horizon. The alien fleet was gone for now, and the colony had survived intact. But more importantly, the humans had discovered a deeper truth. Their ingenuity, adaptability, and courage were weapons the universe could not calculate, and those weapons would always give them a chance to survive, to fight, and to prevail. Milo joined her, looking out at the plains. "Captain," he said softly, "we did it. Humanity proved its strength. Even against impossible odds. Humans fight with their minds, their courage, and their creativity, and that is something the universe can never fully understand." And somewhere far beyond the horizon, the alien fleet had learned something crucial. Humans are not to be underestimated.